Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. This is a special July 4th episode, and we're going to be talking exclusively about Jaws. I told you a few months ago that we would do a special Jaws episode for the 4th of July, and here we are. The day has arrived. You can see an array of Jaws items to my left. So we'll be talking about some of these things, and we have a bunch of boxes as usual to my right, and we'll dig in there. So we have a lot to get through. I hope this doesn't take several hours. Let's get something unhappy out of the way. I think most people who follow the channel probably saw my music video called Lost Fur. If you haven't, please see that. But for those of you who did not see that video, this will be news to you. My cat Stinker has passed away. He died in April, about the end of April. It was very sad, obviously. And go view that video, Lost Fur. That was my tribute to Stinker, and I uploaded that a few days after he died. That was like a musical tribute to him. Just recently, I got a kitten, a black cat named Billy. The shelter named him Billy. So I've got a lot of scars on my hands from Billy. He's only like 2 months old, so he's very active. But that's why I'm going to wear these, because I don't want my scars from his little claws to be distracting. I kind of feel like V for Vendetta when he's cooking in that one scene, and he's got his gloves off, and he goes, "Oh, sorry about that," and he puts his gloves back on. I don't want people looking at my clawed up hands instead of the toys I'm going to show you. So I'll be wearing these gloves, and that's why, because my hands are all sliced and chewed up from this sweet little kitten I've got named Billy, and eventually you'll see Billy on this show. So I could say a lot of things about Stinker. I had him for 20 years, and he was my best buddy. And believe me, I went through a lot of anguish in April when he passed away. It was rough. But I don't want to dwell on that here. Let's talk about the subject at hand. We got a lot to get through, and you can look forward to seeing Billy on this show when he's a little bit older. He was down here earlier, and he was chewing on the electric cables, and I don't want him to get zapped by electric cables. So when he's a little more calm, in a couple of months, when the season starts proper, then we'll hopefully he'll be a little more mature. He'll be up here whether I want him here or not, because he'll jump right up here and he'll say hello to everybody. The season, at this point, I don't know what the date will be when the full season starts. This is not the start of this season, the third season. This is a special episode. The third season will start, close to Halloween. Maybe not. I don't know if I'll wait till October to start. It might be September, but it's not going to be much sooner than that. I might do a couple of special episodes between now and then. I am planning some how can I put it, like folklore type episodes, looking at some folklore creatures, one local and one not local, and showing you some collectibles related to those creatures. And if I can get those together, those might be special episodes before the season starts, or they might become part of the third season. Depends when I can get them together. You know, how, because it's going to be a lot of work to do those two special episodes. So I think that's enough housekeeping. Let's move on with the show here. So why am I going to talk about Jaws? I just kind of felt like about 6 months ago, I thought I had a kind of a taste for talking about Jaws for some reason. It was in my mind. I didn't realize that this was the 45th anniversary at the time. It is the 45th anniversary. Jaws premiered about 2 weeks ago in 1975. The 45th anniversary was about 2 weeks ago. And I didn't know that when I said, hey, let's do a Jaws episode. I also didn't know that Jaws would become so topical again. Back when I first planned to do this episode, I didn't realize there'd be a worldwide pandemic and that businesses would be closed down, and there'd be so much controversy about when to reopen the businesses and how that affects people's health or their lives. But lo and behold, Jaws has suddenly become very current and very relevant, and people who don't usually talk about Jaws or old horror movies are now talking about Jaws, and there's news articles about Jaws and a lot of discussion online. And of course, there are Mayor Larry Vaughn memes, and I'll show a couple. You've seen them, I'm sure. If you've been online at all the last several months, you've seen plenty of Mayor Larry Vaughn memes. And as a Jaws fan, when these started proliferating, I got a big kick out of it. I know some people get upset by them, depending on what your opinions are about the pandemic and how it should be dealt with, or what your political persuasion is. I just got a kick out of these memes because suddenly this movie that was very important to me and is very important to a lot of people seemed fresh and new. And today it seemed like something that was speaking directly to this time and this generation and the things we're experiencing right now. And that's very exciting when art from the past speaks directly to the present. And I know some people kind of get upset because I'm in some Jaws discussion groups, and of course these memes come up, and a lot of people like them, and not a lot, but some people get very upset by them. And I'm sorry if it upsets you now watching this. It's very strange to me, though, if you love a work of art, whether it's a movie or a song or an artist, like a recording artist in his body of work or her body of work, if you love something in the arts, it's very weird to me that you wouldn't find it at least interesting or fascinating when the themes of that art become pertinent to what's going on in the world, regardless of what you think of it. I would think that would be exciting if you're a fan of a movie or a TV show or a song or a particular artist or anything like that. When the themes of that art become current again, and start to speak to people who maybe never even gave it a whole lot of serious consideration before, but now suddenly they're talking about it like it's something important, like we have to listen to this, we have to pay attention to this. I don't know how, if you're a fan of the thing, how that couldn't excite you at least a little bit, even if you have some disagreements or some of the finer points you're not quite on board with. I would think it would still be a very interesting time for you. But, that's the way I think, and everyone thinks that way. But I've really gotten a kick out of seeing Jaws become a topic of conversation and something that people who don't usually care very much about Jaws are now talking about Jaws. And people are analyzing the character of Mayor Larry Vaughn, who's always been considered something of a villain. But from things I've read lately, he's kind of been reevaluated. And I think the consensus these days is he's more of a sympathetic character than he seemed in 1975. Because I think people are getting a greater appreciation. I just watched an in-depth video really about that character today, where the person who created the video really had a great deal of sympathy for the mayor and why he thought the way he did and why he was making the decisions he was making. And I've read other things. He's not really a bad guy. He's doing his job, what he thinks his job is. That's a whole other topic of discussion, but I never thought I'd see think pieces about Larry Vaughn, the mayor in Jaws, analyzing him as a character and kind of going in depth and wondering how that character speaks to the concerns of today. So as a Jaws fan, all of that's very exciting. And then, on top of that, you have the 45th anniversary. If all that wasn't enough, you have the 45th anniversary, just to kind of put the cherry on top. So people would be talking about Jaws if none of this topical stuff was going on. They'd be talking about it for the anniversary. So all that being the case, let me talk about why Jaws is a big deal to me. So let's start with this. Okay. This novel, this paperback novel, is my childhood copy of Jaws. I read, and you can see it's well loved. I read this before I saw the movie, because when the movie came out, I was too young to see it. I mean, how can I put it? Wasn't that I was too young to see it, it's that I was too young to really be fully aware of it and to push my parents to go take me to see it. But in just a year or two, that changed. So I don't know what year I got this book. I'm thinking, so the movie came out in 75. I probably got this book in 76, pretty soon afterward. And I read this, I won't say how old I was, but I was a little kid. And I read this book a lot. And you can see how worn it is. And if you've read the book, you know that there's stuff in here that is definitely not appropriate for children. And this is the movie edition where it talks about it's now a spectacular motion picture. There's a hardbound version, the original version that has completely different artwork. So this is the movie version of the paperback, with the movie poster art, as you see here. And this poster is not an original one sheet. This is a commercial poster, not an original movie one sheet. This is the kind of poster you buy to hang in your room, just to point that out. But about the book, there's explicit sex. Anyone's read this book knows there's explicit adult sex scenes. Very graphic. There's all kinds of language that'll make your head spin. Very bad language. All kinds of adult stuff, and that's not even talking about the violence. So, I'm a teeny-weeny little kid reading this book, reading all that stuff, and I tell you, most of that just went whoosh over my head. Most of that just went right over my head. But that probably was my introduction to that kind of subject matter. Although, you know, as a kid, I read a lot of, I watched a lot of exploitation movies. I watched like Al Adamson exploitation movies when I was like preschool age. I watched a lot of weird stuff, so I was kind of primed for that. What should I look at next here? Okay, let's look at this. So here's my childhood Jaws soundtrack album. So that's my childhood copy. And again, I had this before I saw the movie. I don't know if, you know, this is a first edition or how you could tell. I'm not sure, but it's definitely from the 70s. You know, it's I don't know if there's a difference between one that would have been issued in 1975 versus 1976, 77, 78. I don't know. But this is a 1970s copy of the soundtrack album, and it is my childhood copy, and I listened to this a lot. Now here I should say, okay, so when the movie was new, I was just a little too young to really be fully aware, but, and put this back here. All this stuff's gonna fall over. Actually, let's take the soundtrack album, put it down there. This is probably the thing that really introduced me to what Jaws was all about. This novelty song. Well, this is an album, but on this album is, on this Mr. Jaws album is a novelty song called Mr. Jaws. And it's like a story about Mr. Jaws. There's a reporter interviewing Mr. Jaws, and that's the shark. And every time the shark talks, it's a snippet of some popular song from the 70s. At one point the reporter is saying, "Mr. Jaws, why are you biting my hand?" And then you have a little snippet of a song that says, "Wouldn't you lend a hand to a friend?" Stuff like that. Those are the kind of jokes in the song. So it's a little story using snippets of pre-existing popular music, and the snippets are the voice of the shark. The shark talks through these snippets, these little clips from these songs, while the reporter talks to the shark, and then it has sound effects like the ocean and stuff like that. And it's been a long time since I heard it. I don't remember if it gets into any other characters from the movie or if it's just the reporter talking to the shark. I don't remember the whole story. But I heard that novelty record over and over and over and over and over. And I think that was really my first, the first time I was aware of what Jaws really was. I kind of knew, but not exactly. And then that kind of drove it home, though. It's a shark and it eats people. So I think I heard that novelty song first, and then I got the book, which I read a few times. And then so Jaws 2 came out, and I did see that at the theater, first run, Jaws 2, and then Jaws, the original Jaws, was re-released in theaters after Jaws 2. And then I saw Jaws on the re-release at the theater. So that's when I saw Jaws at the theater. And then I think it was the same year that it had its broadcast TV premiere. But there were other weird things, like there was a episode of The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo. They had the Jaws shark in it. I don't know if it was really Bruce, the shark from the movie, or if it was something they made just for that episode. But they billed it in the commercials as being the shark from Jaws. So I was really excited to see The Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, just to see the shark from Jaws. So there were those other things to kind of get me excited about Jaws, about the shark, before I saw the movie. Actually, I think Sheriff Lobo, I think I'd seen the movie at the theater in the re-release before Sheriff Lobo. Then came Sheriff Lobo, then it was broadcast on TV. The actual movie was broadcast on TV. Another thing that whetted my appetite, there was a documentary about horror movies, like the history of horror, hosted by Anthony Perkins. And I think it was something like 60 years of the horror movie. Now, of course, we've got 100 years of the horror movie, but it was 60 years of the horror movie at that time. And it had clips, of like silent movie, Universal Monsters, I don't know, Hammer or whatever, up to the modern day. And the last 5 minutes of this documentary was about Jaws. And that was the first actual moving picture footage from Jaws that I ever saw. And that was the end. I mean, it gave away the end of the movie, with the shark coming up on the orca and destroying the boat and Quint sliding down into the shark's mouth. They had that in the documentary. So I saw that before I saw the movie. I saw the end before I saw the movie. And the end of the movie is not like the end of the book. But when I saw that scene, I didn't know that was the end of the movie, because I'd read the book by then. And what I was seeing on the screen didn't look like anything I'd read in the book, so I didn't quite know what I was seeing. I just knew it was cool, whatever it was. But I don't think I realized the movie was being spoiled. I was seeing the end. And at that age, I wouldn't have cared anyway. So finally I see the movie, but by then I was already playing Jaws games, playing with toys. Now, this is my childhood Jaws model kit. I built this as a child. This is from a company, it's spelled Addar. I don't know if it's Adar or Adar. It's kind of like Ahi, Ahi, A-H-I. I don't know. Adar sounds right to me, but I could be completely wrong. I'll just say Adar for now, because I don't know how to really pronounce it. But so this is an Adar kit. It was not. We're going to get to something else in a second. They did put out a kit in 1975, but this was a second model kit that they made, and I think this was 77. I think this came out in 77. But this is my childhood Adar kit, and it's the end of the movie with Brody on what's left of the sinking orca, trying to shoot the shark. And this comes out. So, and I painted him silver. He's like NECA Jaws. I painted him silver. I did a pretty good job with the water, didn't I? For a kid. I mean, everything else is kind of messy, though. It's not too bad. And I could have glued this on, but I wanted it loose in case I wanted to play with it or something. So, this is something I had in childhood. And he's pretty cool. I don't have a boxed one. I will show you now a photo of what the box looks like. So we're seeing a photo of what the box looks like. And you can see another kit in that photo. And this is the other kit. And I had this as a kid as well, but my childhood one did not survive to the present. So this is a modern one. Well, this is a vintage kit, but this is one that I built recently, preparing for this video. So I bought this vintage kit. This is from 1975. This is a DAR, same company. And this one came first, and this was 1975. This scene in a bottle. And this is what it looks like when it's built up. And I made that just a few days ago, so I could show it in this video. And you can see the diver, who doesn't really look like Hooper. You know, he's dressed a little differently. He's kind of generic, but you can see the diver in the shark cage. He's got his little harpoon, and it does kind of look like the gun, if you want to call it a gun, that Hooper's got in the movie that he's going to use to poison the shark. He's going to try to stick in the shark's mouth, but it's not going to work. And this is what it looks like in the back. So got a little cork there. Now I also have, let's see, where would it be? Is it in here? Yep, that's good. Got it the first time. Okay. This is a vintage sealed kit. Now I've also put some plastic over it, but under this plastic is the original cellophane that's undamaged. It's sealed. So this is a vintage sealed version of this kit. This is open because, you know, I built it. This is sealed. And that's from 1975. So this is something that was released when the movie was new, the year the movie came out. And I really like, if I'm going to collect something for Jaws, I really prefer something that's from 1975. From that, it's kind of like with Alien stuff, the Killer Alien. He's over there. The big Killer Alien doll is from 1979, the year the movie came out. And there's the puzzles and stuff in the board game for Alien and all the other little novelty things that they made in 1979. If I'm going to collect Alien, then I really want 1979 Alien merchandise. And it's kind of the same thing with Jaws. I'm going to collect Jaws. I want 1975 Jaws merchandise, or at least 1970s. Something when the movie was still a current film. In this case, I mean, this is before, this kit was before Jaws 2. You know, Jaws was still a new movie when this came out. Still a current thing. So, let's see. Got so much to get through here. Okay, what else do we have? Let's focus on 1975. All right, so here is a Chemtoy Jaws shark. This is made of PVC. And I have I still have my childhood one. This is not it. This is not from my childhood. I still have my childhood one. But I used to run around with this and attack other kids because the teeth are very sharp. These teeth will dig into you. And I really like this because it's kind of crude, and in its own weird way, it kind of resembles Bruce, the shark from the movie, because it has a kind of unnatural look. And Chemtoy was an interesting company. They made a lot of weird PVC stuff. Oh, I had some like DC Comics superhero figurines like Batman and Robin and Superman. They're little hard made of the same stuff as this. Kind of hard plastic, not brittle. They were bendable, but they were still hard little figurines. A lot of the Chemtoy merchandise was made of this kind of material. So it is flexible, sort of. You know, it's kind of bendable, but kind of stiff. So since we're talking about Chemtoy, so I had one of those sharks as a kid. I still have him, but I'm not sure where he is. I looked in some boxes, but he looks just like that. Let's see here. While we're on the subject of Chemtoy, there's really no rhyme or reason to how I'm doing this. I'm not very organized here. I was going to save this for later in the video, but it's already kind of late in the video. While we're talking about Chemtoy, these, as far as I'm concerned, they're the most important Jaws toys to me. These are really the things that I wouldn't say I had a Jaws collection if I didn't have these. These are, in my opinion, these are the centerpieces of my Jaws collection. They're very fragile. Okay, so this is a carded Chemtoy Jaws. See if you can. It's hard to get them all on camera. There he is. He's shrink wrapped, and because he's made of that hard material and he's all pointy, it rips into the cellophane, the shrink wrap. But he's never been removed. He's still on there. You can see it's got the movie shark there. It's got the swimmer. The logo doesn't look exactly like the movie logo, but close. The logo on his sticker does. That looks like the movie logo. The logo on the card is close enough. You can see the artwork there. So these are very rare on a card like that. And it took me, no exaggeration, it really took me 30 years to find carded examples. Because these are things I wanted when I started collecting. When I started focusing on monsters, the first, along with like a carded Ahai creature, one of the first things I wanted were a pair of these sharks, and it took me 30 years to find them. They're that hard to find on cards. Okay, so here's the other version of it. This is that was the gray version. This is the white version. This is made of a softer rubber. This is squishy rubber. The other one is a PVC, like a firm, hard PVC. This is not hard. This is very flexible and soft. So the shrink wrap on this is better. It still has some splits, but it's better because the toy isn't poking at the cellophane the same way. So you can see, and the card on him is a little better. The card on the gray one is a little soiled. This one's clean. And he was unpunched when I got him, but just from handling him to take photos the first day I had him, the little circle fell out of the hole as I was taking photos of him. And it fell down into the shrink wrap. But there he is. He looks like a dead fish you'd get at a deli. You know, he'd be like shrink wrapped on a tray. And I also had this version as a kid, and still have him somewhere. He's in a box somewhere. So this, as far as I'm concerned, these are far and away my two favorite Jaws toys. These are my two favorite Jaws toys. Very happy to own both of these. And it was important to me that I have both, that I have the gray and the white one, because they're both so different. And I remember as a kid seeing these cards at, I think it was Kresge, and you can see that there is a Kresge tag printed on the card. So these two are the centerpiece of my collection, as far as I'm concerned, the centerpiece of my Jaws collection. There we go. They'll be okay for now. Let's see here. And I have other rubber sharks to show, but I have to talk about the game of Jaws. You can't really go much further without talking about this. Let's see here. Alright, so this is a sealed box. This is a sealed, ideal game of Jaws. And you can see it's got the movie artwork on, like a photo on sides, and then it's printed on the box on the back. And we've seen this before on several large toys, and they come in these large boxes. There's always printing directly on the box, and then there's a sticker with the 4-color artwork. There's the movie artwork. It's hard to get them all in shot. It's such a big box. And let's see if I can show you the top. So these things are easy to find in a box. but very hard to find in a sealed box. This is a factory sealed box. Never been opened. So that's what makes this particular one special, the fact that it's never been opened. It is a sealed box. That is unusual. You don't see that. Now here is an open box, and it's open because it's the box where this one came out of. So here's what that game looks like. And I'm sure you've all seen this. This is a very well-known toy. This is a classic toy. This is the ideal game of Jaws. I did not put rubber bands inside of his mouth, but that's how he works basically. You put all the pieces in there. You do that, then you open his mouth, and he would have rubber bands putting pressure, like having tension on the jaws. Then you have a hook that you use to fish these little pieces out. That's what the pieces look like. Just bones and junk. And as you can continue taking them out, there's less and less weight on the jaw, and then finally, because of the tension from the rubber bands, the jaw snaps shut. And then you lose, you're out. The shark got you. But I didn't want to put rubber bands on these little things. I had one as a kid, and I had a lot of fun with him, and I tried to find him for this video, and I couldn't find him. I don't know if he finally just broke or if he's down here somewhere. I'm not sure, but I remember these little things did break, and I had to glue them. And they attached, the rubber bands attached to little little tabs inside of his fin. So there's like a tab on the fin. This fin snaps in, and the rubber band goes from this little post into the tab, and that's what gives them the tension. And over time, those things get weak and break. But this was okay. So when I was using like 12-inch figures or Mego, like 8-inch figures, this would be Bruce for the 8-inch or 12-inch, more 8-inch really. So if I'm playing with Mego-style figures, this would be my Jaws shark, and they would fit nicely in his mouth. And then if I were playing with 3 3/4-inch figures, this or the white version would be the shark I would use. So if I had like adventure people with, I had a couple of boats for the adventure people. I had divers, and I had a kayak. Me and my brother and I both had these things. We had a plane that would snap into the boat, so it could fly and then land in the water, and then a shark could attack it. So we had a lot of fun with adventure people and these Chemtoy sharks. They would eat the adventure people. And then for Megos, the ideal shark would eat the Megos. Also, sometimes if we were playing not with toys, just playing with ourselves, it doesn't sound very nice, playing with ourselves. You know what I mean? If we were playing role play without toys, where like we were saying like we're Brody or we're Quint, sometimes we would use this for those games as well. But usually, when we're playing like a role play, I'm trying to get the pieces back in his mouth. They're not going to go. It's the same here. Don't fall apart now. There we go. Ah. Usually, when we were playing ourselves, playing the characters, I would be the shark. So, so instead of sometimes we'd use that game, but sometimes I would just be the shark. I always liked being the monster, so I would be the shark. I don't remember who was who. I remember we had a particular friend who was always Hooper. I think my brother was. He was Quint, I think. We had another friend who was Brody. And my brother might have been Brody sometimes, but I think he was Quint. And then had another friend who was Brody, and then I would be the shark. That's how it usually went. Or if I wasn't the shark, then we'd use the ideal game. But the ideal game was ideal for 8-inch figures, Mego figures. Let's see here. What should we talk about? Continuing with 1975. So, the ideal game came out in 1975, and it was reissued many times over the years, including I think there was a 90s version, maybe even later than that. I'm not sure, but it got reissued. But this one I showed you and the sealed one are 1975 versions. So continuing with 1975 merchandise. This is a Collegeville Jaws costume, Halloween costume. So this is a real one from 1975. This is not a reissue. They did reissue a box like this and a mask like this, but instead of the costume, they had a T-shirt, I think. Yeah, so they kind of reissued it, but this is a real one. This is the original. This is a 1975 Jaws Halloween costume from Collegeville. They also made a Jaws 2. I don't have that. I'd like to have that, but I don't have it. This is a pretty good box. A lot of my Halloween costumes, the boxes are kind of beat up, but not this one. Now, it does have one issue. There's writing on the back. Aww. Well, so it's interesting. The writing, it has a note here. It says October 31st, 1975. So this costume was actually worn for Halloween 1975. So that's nice to know. A little note from someone scribbled on the back. So what else should we talk about next? We haven't even dug into these at all. Let's see. Well, what else can I talk about with licensed stuff? Let's see here. So much stuff. Let's talk about blow molds. That's a good thing to discuss next. So as far as I know, there's not a licensed Jaws blow mold. These are unlicensed. I'm not sure what company made this, but this is a bank. You can see he's got the slot in his head right there. It's pretty cool. I can imagine if I had this as a kid, I probably would have also used this with Mego figures. I'm not sure what company made that one. Then there's this other one that I think is better known. So this sticker's coming off. So this is the Great White Shark Bank from A.J. Renzi. He's a big old bank. He's bigger than the other one we just saw. You can see here he's got a sticker that was not coming off like that last time I looked at it. This paint's pretty good. The Great White Shark, it says down there. The Great White Shark. And he's jumping up out of the water. And there's where his slot is for the change. Put your coins in there. And instead of stickers for his eyes and teeth, he's painted. The other one had stickers. So he's coming up out of the water. That's a pretty neat bank. I can just imagine that on some kid's shelf in his bedroom, putting his coins in there. And of course, when he starts getting, he's kind of wobbly, but when he starts getting coins in the bottom, it would give him stability. So he would stand a lot better. So that's A.J. Renzi, which is a very well-known blow mold toy company. Made a lot of banks. Made the famous Monster Mobile. Made a lot of stuff. So, boy, how much time we got? We haven't even scratched the surface. Oh, I should point out, why is there a can of beer? So this is a replica of the beer that Quint drank on the Orca. You remember that Quint crushes a can of beer. So this is the brand of beer that he drank and that he crushed, and it's styled to look like the 1975 version of the can. This company's still in business. They still make this brand of beer, but it doesn't look like this anymore. This is a special, like a retro anniversary edition. It really marketed towards the Jaws fans. It doesn't, for copyright reasons, it doesn't say Jaws anywhere on it, but it mentions the movie about the big shark in the captain. It says in the text here, this is the beer drank by the captain in that movie with the big shark. You know, it like dances around the topic, but you get the idea without actually saying Jaws, because it didn't want to pay for a license, I'm sure. And it says here 1975 limited edition. So obviously the original one would not have said that. But this is a replica of Quint's beer. And it's been drained. I didn't drain. I bought it empty like this. And honestly, I'd never heard of this beer before this replica. I'd never really given much thought to what kind of beer Quint drank until this replica came out. And then I decided I had to have that. And I'd like to try that beer sometime. I don't know if it tastes like it did in 1975. I don't know if it's the same taste. I do know that back in 1975, the beer cans were much thicker, or the more rigid. The metal was more rigid. So today when we watch him crush that can, it's like, well, who cares? And anyone can crush a beer can. What's the big deal? Back then, it was hard to crush a beer can. So that was supposed to... He was showing how tough he was, and how strong he was, that he could crush that can. And that's why it's a joke that Hooper crushes the styrofoam cup. But back then in 75, not just anyone could crush a beer can. They were sturdier than the ones they have today. Okay, let's see here. Let's get to toys now. Let's get to novelties. We're still rolling. Okay. Wow. Oddly, I tend to like the unlicensed Jaws items from 1975. The bootleg stuff that came out. I tend to gravitate towards that because there's only so many licensed Jaws items from 75. They didn't really make a whole lot of stuff. As far as toys, there were some jigsaw puzzles that I don't own. A little this and that, but not a whole lot of stuff. There were some inflatables, and I'll show you one of those. But they didn't make a whole lot of playthings for Jaws in 1975. So if you're looking for vintage 75 Jaws items, the unlicensed stuff is really a lot of what you're going to find. But here's, all that being said, here is a licensed item. Let me see what else I got in here. I believe these are the same. It's just that one's faded and one's not. Let me see here. Yeah. So one's used and one's not. So these are Jaws collector cups from 1975. You can see the blurb on the back. It's obviously from when the movie was new, promoting the film. So this is an unused one. Excuse me. Always my asthma kicks in about an hour into these things. It's about that time. So, an interesting thing about a lot of Jaws merchandise is companies have to decide what they're going to do about the naked woman swimming in the poster art. Because in the movie poster, you can tell she's naked. And let me see here. Yeah, in the book cover, you can definitely tell she's naked. So, and some merchandise you can tell she's naked. Some you can't. This one they've tried to hide with the waves and the bubbles and things to disguise the fact that she's naked. But I think like the Chemtoy sharks, I'm not taking those out again. Those are very fragile. I'm not going to handle those any more than I have to. But those cards also were more revealing than I would have thought, as far as the artwork for the girl's concerned. So it's kind of interesting looking at these different things, what they decide to do with the swimmer. Let's see, is it on the college bill? No, but I think it might be on the costume itself. It's on the box. It's not on the ideal game. It's not on the box for that. So it's one of the interesting things to observe on Jaws merchandise. Do they have the naked girl or not? How do they handle her? Now, this was gifted to me by Count Stankus from Collector's Dungeon. Thank you, Count Stankus, for that. Well, I don't know which one, but one of these was gifted, and the other one I bought separately. That's why I have two. So it's always nice when someone gifts you something. People used to send me free stuff all the time. I miss that. I mean, people are always sending me free things. I don't know why. Expensive things, too. I mean, like, really expensive toys and things that cost a lot of money. I mean, it was nice that they did. They don't do that anymore. So, someone sent me something recently, which we'll see in another video. And then there's this. So, well, it still happens now and then, but not as much as it used to. I miss that. I miss getting free stuff. I used to, the other people sent me free stuff just out of kindness, but I used to get free stuff from Sideshow. Sideshow toys, or Sideshow collectibles. So I had this huge collection of late 90s, early 2000s Sideshow stuff, pretty much all the Universal Monsters stuff. And I didn't pay for hardly any of it. They just sent me all that stuff. It was weird. Any Universal Monsters thing they made, they sent me a free sample. Not really sample. I mean, it was the same one you'd purchase. If you were going to purchase it, there was nothing different about it. So, and I never asked for that. They just started sending me stuff. And they sent me, my gosh, must have been thousands of dollars worth of toys. And there was no such thing as YouTube back then, so I didn't have a YouTube channel. I had their stuff on my Gallery of Monster Toys website, but, that wasn't that much exposure, really. But boy, they sent me any Sideshow, anything, they sent it to me. Those were the days. Let's see here. Oh, it's not handy, but I had a nice gentleman send me a Rondo Hatton bust. I was talking about the Rondos. I did not win, by the way. But I've won a Rondo in the past, years ago. So I think in my last video I had both my official Rondo trophy from many years ago, and I had this Rondo bust that this viewer made for me. And they were look at the last video, you'll see them both here. So that, I appreciated that. Okay, what else do we have? Before we go to unlicensed stuff, because I have some licensed things. So let me continue with licensed stuff. So much stuff. So here, these are stockings. These are Jaws stockings. These are long leggings. These are for a woman. And so you can imagine that the stocking be all blue and the shark's coming up, and then somewhere like in the calf region would be the water line. And there's the girl again. And she looks pretty naked in this. But this is not a U.S. item. This is, I think it's a French item. I think it's from France, but it's copyright 1975, Universal Studios. This is a 1975 Jaws item. And I don't remember what I paid for this, but I know there's a seller on eBay asking $400 for one of these. Buy what you want, but I don't think I would spend $400 on it, but do what you want to do. I don't know why I spent on this. $75 maybe? Something like that. So, but I'm glad I owned it. I think I got this from a seller that goes by the name of Jaws Collector, and he's very well known. He's probably the premier Jaws collector. So if you read like a news article about collecting Jaws and there's a collector interviewed showing his stuff, it's probably this guy. He goes by the handle Jaws Collector. And a lot of his good stuff is gone now. I think a lot of his better stuff has been sold. But this is a pretty good item, and I'm pretty sure this came from him. This is when he didn't sell anything for a long time, and then he started selling stuff. And this was, I think, early in the process of when he was sort of liquidating his collection. I think he's going to keep a core items that are his favorite stuff, but he's getting rid of a lot of other stuff. So I was fortunate to get this from him for a very reasonable price. So I'm very happy with this. Let's see here. We got some other things. My kitten is saying, "Where's Raymond?" Billy, the kitten I told you about, I've only had him for a little over a week and a few days. We are inseparable. He follows me everywhere. I mean, if I had the door shut, otherwise he would be right here and chewing on everything. I see he's already, something has been clawed right here. So I was careful to try to keep this stuff away from him, but he got an item sitting right here. I can see his claw mark. Oh, well, that's okay. But I don't want him down here chewing on electrical cables. That's the main reason he's not here. But he sleeps right next to my head. He doesn't sit in my lap. He sits behind me. So he's between my back and the chair. Whenever I'm sitting at a computer or something, he hops in there. Follows me from room to room. And I've been working from home throughout the pandemic, but I go back to work. Well, by the time you see this, I will have gone back to work. July 1st. So I'm shooting this about 24 hours before I'm scheduled to go back to work. So that'll be a big change after working from home for many months. To go back to the office, that'll be a kind of a bit of a shock change. And my poor cat will have to say, he'll have to learn to not have me around quite so much. Anyway, so here is a patch. This is an iron-on patch, but it's a fabric patch. It has an official Jaws patch from 1975. And here's a similar one, but not the same. There's a lot of stuff like this, patches like this. They made a lot of things like this. So these are, mint and package, unused Jaws patches. Iron-on patches from 1975. Let's see here. All right, this is another. This is an iron-on transfer Super Shark. So this is unlicensed. This is not an official Jaws item. I actually had this as a kid. I had a T-shirt with this iron-on applied. So I want to say I got this out of a vending machine or something like that. And then my mom ironed it onto the shirt, I think. I don't think I bought the shirt with this already on it. I could be wrong. And here's the reverse. So I have two of them, so I can show you front and back. That's what it looks like in reverse. So this image was taken from a magazine cover. They just took, it was on the cover, you know, it was a 1975 issue, capitalizing on the popularity of sharks. And they just took that image and made an illustration of it. And here, I'm sure this was taken from the exact same image. There's an unlicensed puzzle, unofficial Jaws puzzle. That obviously was inspired by the same image that was on the cover of that magazine. And I like that there's a guy, he's fallen overboard. What's he gonna do? And just this great white shark. That's what the side looks like. Now there were licensed Jaws puzzles. I don't remember how many they made, but they did make a few licensed Jaws puzzles in 1975. I don't have any of those. They're pretty rare and expensive, and there's only so much I'm willing to spend for a jigsaw puzzle. There's another Jaws jigsaw puzzle that's got the movie poster artwork. I'm not sure what year that's from. I don't know if that's from 75, but these other ones I'm talking about are 75. I don't have a lot of theme park stuff, but this is a postcard. Universal Studios theme park. This is Hollywood Park. So for years they had a Jaws ride. I never went on it, unfortunately. But for years they had a boat ride, and then Bruce, I don't know if it wasn't a movie used Bruce. It was one made for the park, I think. Or I think at some point they switched it out with one of the later sequel sharks. I don't think they ever had a 75 Bruce mechanical shark in a theme park. I could be wrong. But anyway, they had a mechanical Jaws shark, and would come up out of the water and attack the boat that you're in. And it was a very popular ride for years and years and years. And then in the 2000s, they finally phased it out. Why did they phase it out? I don't know. Jaws is still very popular. I don't know why they would get rid of that, but they did. And this is a postcard. Send more tourists. The last ones were delicious. That's what it says. And there's a lot of theme park. I don't collect the theme park stuff. There's a lot of Jaws-related theme park merchandise, including 75 dated stuff. I don't know if it actually was made in 75. It's probably a year or two later, but it's got the 75 copyright. So it's kind of interesting to me, but really I want the movie stuff, not the theme park stuff. I really want the movie stuff. I'll start putting some of this away. I have something large to show you. Okay. Come on now. How did I do this? How do we handle this? Bumping everything. Okay. All right. Let me take this, put this over here. All right, this is the thing I want to show you. So this is Jaws 2 artwork, but it's a Jaws item, and it's weird that the copyright. This is bizarre. The copyright looks like 1961. 1960 copyright Jaws, trademark 1961, Universal City Studios. Jaws trademark of and licensed by Universal City Studios. I don't know what that... It's 1961. That's what it says. I don't know if that's going to show up very well. Why they would put a 61 copyright on it, I don't know. Let's see if I can get this out here. Do my best. Can you see it? I hope that was good enough. So it's got the Jaws 2 artwork, but it says Jaws on it. And there is a towel, a beach towel, that has the original movie art on it. But I don't have that. But there is one similar to the one I just showed you, but it has the 75 artwork on it. Okay, whoa. Okay, so we've got a lot of toys in here. Let's see how do we handle this? That's a line from the movie. How do we handle this? Let's start with something licensed. So here is an inflatable. Let's see the license there. Let me take this over here. Let's see if I can... I'm not going to inflate this, but I will open it up. So this is Imperial 1975. It's made by Imperial Toys, 1975. It's kind of hard to get a really good sense of what this looks like. So this is like a pool inflatable. You can see how big it is. So this came packaged in a bag with a header card, and I don't think it was a very spectacular looking header card either. It was kind of generic looking. But they made a bigger version, a 6-foot long version, that was in a box. And I don't have that. But they did make a version about twice as big as this. And it comes in a cardboard box with artwork. I don't think it has the movie artwork. It has like kids playing at pool. So how did I have this? I think I had like that. Oh boy. Okay, I think that's how it went. I was kind of distracted because I was hearing thumping going on upstairs. Thump, thump, thump. So I was a little bit distracted there. Okay. So that was licensed. So let's look at some things that are not licensed. Here is one of my favorite unlicensed Jaws toys. This is the Big Mouth. Let's see if I can get this out of here. There we go. Okay, here is the Big Mouth. This is a motorized shark that swims through the water. Not very realistic. Look, I'm sure this toy existed before the movie, and they just said, "Hey, we've got a a toy shark. We can market this as a Jaws toy." And the artwork on this thing is wonderful. Wind up with realistic swimming action on toxic. Big Mouth lunges through the waters at his prey. So look at the artwork on the top of that card. Isn't that beautiful? Kind of Lincoln-esque, similar to Lincoln International is what I'm trying to say. It's got a little scene there with the shark coming in and attack the boat, but the really great thing is the back. Oh my gosh. Okay, here's the back. So you can see there, you've got Alex Kintner and his yellow raft about to get attacked by the shark. And then you've got three guys, presumably Quint, Brody, Hooper, running across the beach, I guess to try to save Alex. And they're going to harpoon the shark, which doesn't really look like a great white, but whatever. So it's kind of a mashup of different scenes in the movie. Yeah. That is some weird artwork. I love it. Unlicensed bootleg toy artwork. That's great. And in the end has that little shark on it. And the actual shark, I mean, the artwork is all kind of lurid and serious, but the actual shark itself is this goofy looking thing. So that might be my favorite. Well, no, no, that's not my favorite unlicensed Jaws toy. I'm going to show you my favorite. This is my second favorite. The Big Mouth. And speaking of Lincoln International, they made a knockoff orca that doesn't look anything like the orca, but it's marketed as an orca knockoff. They made a boat called Shark Hunting Boat. I think that's the name of it. Shark Hunting Boat. It's just it's a boat, and the only thing that really makes it kind of like the boat in Jaws, the orca is the boat, Quint's boat in Jaws. They gave it some barrels. They stuck some barrels on it, I think, and then there's a sticker on the side. I think this has a picture of a shark and says Shark Hunting Boat. And that was made by Lincoln International, and it has some cool artwork on the box. And that is, I believe, a 1975 toy. I don't have that. I want that. If you've got that, sell it to me. I wish I had that here to show you. I do not. I have the Todd McFarlane licensed orca that we'll see towards the end. I would trade a Todd McFarlane licensed orca for that unlicensed Lincoln International one, if you've got it. Okay. Trying to see if there's like a date or something on the Big Mouth. TWO London exclusive product. That's what this is. Another TWO London exclusive product. Don't think there's a date. It's made in Hong Kong. I mean, I'm sure it's 1975. Yeah, it doesn't say. But that's a cool toy, this Big Mouth. I really like that. Alright, so related to the Big Mouth would be this wind-up swimming shark. And it looks almost exactly the same as the Big Mouth, but it's not the same. Or is it? I don't think it is. Well, I want to say that the Big Mouth is bigger, but maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe this, or not the Big Mouth. I think the Big Mouth is smaller, but could be an optical illusion. I don't know. Maybe they're the same size. I feel like this one's just a tad bigger than the Big Mouth, but maybe not. But it's essentially the same toy. This one is on a card instead of in a box. Made in Hong Kong. So this company is SCHUCO Toy Company. I don't know how you pronounce that. Wind-up swimming shark with waving tail action, made in Hong Kong. No date. And this artwork it's like scuba divers. You know, it's not really Jaws related artwork. I can't quite make out exactly what the scene is here, but it's more like undersea adventure kind of artwork than Jaws artwork. But I think it's the same shark, same wind-up shark as the Big Mouth. Let's see here. Got a lot of rubber sharks. Oh, well, here's another Chemtoy. And we've already seen one, but see another one. There's another one. Ta-da! Another Chemtoy. So I got two of these loose with the tag, and they did sell them loose in a box on on the shelf, and then they sold them on the card. So I got the two loose ones. I got the carded one in the gray version, and then I still have my childhood one somewhere. What else do we have here? This one. So I will show you in a second. I'll show you. Here's some tiny little rubber sharks. I don't know if you can see that one very well. A little rubber shark. And this is from childhood. I got this in childhood. I think it was in a vending machine. This I believe I got as an adult. But there's a lot of rubber sharks. Okay, so this little one kind of looks like this big one. This is unique because it's kind of translucent blue. You know, it's kind of, you can see through it. And when it was new, it had a plastic insert in the mouth. And I really like the look of this one because it kind of looks like that Super Shark artwork that was on that Iron-On transfer. It kind of looks like that same artwork, doesn't it? It doesn't really look like Bruce. It looks like that shark image that was used for so many things. This is made by Imperial. Imperial Toy Company made this. And this is a childhood item. This is my shark from childhood. Here is the same sculpt. Okay, be careful because this has got a tag. There we go. So this is the same sculpt as that blue one we just saw. Yeah, same sculpt, but this is molded in white. It's got this blue paint application. And does he have the plastic inside of him? Yeah, he does. You can't really see, it's deep inside of there, but he does have a little plastic insert deep inside his mouth. And this it has a little tag. He's from another friend for your Imperial Wonder Zoo. Another friend for your Imperial Wonder Zoo. And his name is Man-Eater, the Great White Shark. Man-Eater, the Great White Shark. That's his name. And Imperial Toys, they had this series called the Wonder Zoo, and I loved those toys when I was a kid. I had everything from the Wonder Zoo, and eventually I'll do a video on those. I have a very nice collection of tagged Imperial Wonder Zoo rubber toys. They're not monsters though, so it's a little off the beaten path. But I've got, kangaroos and monkeys and gorillas and tortoises and bears and dogs and snakes, alligators, etc., etc. And here's the shark from that set. Put him back here. Start putting some of these back before we get too carried away. So, another thing from this box I want to show you. This is very special. This was a vending machine display. So, they still have them. Like a gumball machine where you put the quarter in, you turn the crank, and a toy comes out. Well, this is from the 70s. This is Jaws era. And this would be the window card in a vending machine that would show you what you would get if you put some money in there. You would get one of these. And take a good look at that. It doesn't say Jaws. It doesn't really capitalize on the movie. It says Sea Monster. But it's got a shark. And it was definitely the whole thing about dangerous sea creatures. That's all Jaws era stuff. So this is like circa 1975. And the reason why this is important to me, I don't have a lot of vending machine cards. But in fact, I think this might have been the first one I ever bought. I got this from a friend named Andrew Williams many years ago. Many years ago. And the reason I wanted this one in particular was because when I was a kid, visiting my grandparents, in their town, there was a kind of general store. It was mostly a clothing store. It didn't really have a lot of toys. I was always kind of bored when I went to this particular store. But the thing I looked forward to, the only thing I looked forward to really in the store was the vending machines at the checkout counter. They had some nice, right where the checkout lane was, that's where the vending machine was. It wasn't by the door, it was by the checkout counter. Which usually these things would be by the door. But this was kind of a hokey-pokey little little shop. It was a small town kind of deal. And it wasn't exactly a five and dime because it had it didn't have the variety of a five and dime. It was more clothes and maybe, I don't know, cheap dishware or stuff like that. But it was a small-ish store, the kind of thing you'd find in a small town. And the vending machine, the one that really interested me in that store was the Sea Monster one. And for all I know, this could be the very same one that I saw as a kid. This could be the very same one I looked at as a kid, because it's from Illinois. Andy, who I got this from, he lives in Illinois, not far from where the store was. So it could be the same one. I have seen one other example of the Sea Monster vending display card. So I know that obviously there was more than one. But just the fact that this came from Illinois, in the vicinity of where that store was, makes me wonder if this could be the very same one I saw as a kid. Maybe. But I have great memories. The only thing about that store I liked was this this vending machine. And my brother and I had all of these sea creatures. Every time we went to the store, we'd get another one. And they're probably still in the basement somewhere, if I could find them. So this had a very sentimental attachment for me, a sentimental meaning. So that's why I wanted that one. And that was it's also part of my Jaws childhood, because before Star Wars, there was Jaws and $6 Million Man. You had the Mego superheroes. You had Adventure Team G.I. Joe. But really, Jaws was the big thing. There wasn't a lot of merchandise, but Jaws was the big pop culture thing at the time. Jaws was the Star Wars before Star Wars. So a lot of our games revolved in some way or another around Jaws. Now, here is 14-inch Super Shark made by a company called Justin, I think. And here's that artwork again. That artwork got around. There it is. Obviously the same, inspired by that same photo. And it's a 14-inch rubber shark. Originally sold for $1.98. $1.98. And there's his underside. So he's in this header card with the bag. But the reason he's kind of important is because he's the same shark used in this. And I will, this is, I guess this is something of an important piece, so I'll take this out. So this is my favorite unlicensed Jaws item, and one of my favorite Jaws items, period. This is the Ben Cooper shark with the victim. So you see he's got this, it's just like the Justin shark we just saw in the bag, only it's painted a little differently. But same mold, same 14-inch shark. I'm running my hand so you can see it, because it's hard to see. Running my hand behind it. And he's got a little bendy swimmer. A little bendy swimmer stuck in his mouth like Quint at the end of the movie. Only that's not Quint, that's a swimmer. He's wearing blue swim trunks. He's got blood on his hand. Kind of like a Ahai mummy jiggler or something like that would have blood on its hand. He's got blood on his hand. But the shark doesn't have blood on his mouth. Maybe inside, but not around the edges. And the guy's face doesn't look that alarmed, really. He's kind of taking this in stride. Being eaten by a shark. And here's the artwork. Look at that artwork. Isn't that wonderful? I love the look on this shark, on his face. He's got kind of a sly look. It's like, yeah, that's right, guy. You're not getting away from me. Gulp. And of course, a shark that big would be more like a megalodon than a great white, swallowing that guy whole, just like Quint would say, you swallow you whole. A little shaking, a little tenderizing, down you go. So it says shark, 2 pieces, man and shark. Copyright 1975, Ben Cooper Incorporated, Brooklyn, New York, made in Hong Kong. And it's got the little, where is it? The little Ben Cooper logo that we love. Love seeing that logo on anything. $1975, made in Hong Kong. So there's a guy on eBay selling what I guess you would call a reproduction of this. And he wants $300. So it's a repro header card or repro bag. The bendy figure is not the same one as this guy. The shark is the right shark, but it's worn, I think, and it's not the right color. And I'm sure that he got the image of the header card from a photo of mine, I'm sure. Where else would he have gotten it from? I mean, if you look this up online, and it's going to either be a photo I took of it, or maybe the auction photo, because I did get this off of eBay. I've had it several years now, but I'm sure that auction photo is still out there. But the reproduction one that he's trying to sell, I mean, the header card's not the right size, and the bag is like long, and the shark's hanging down like this, and it's not a very accurate reproduction. And he wants $300 for it. Ah! But so that's a very special item. This Ben Cooper shark with the victim, man and shark. That is a cool piece. It's so so ludicrous. It's so silly, so lurid and weird. So not like anything that would have been made as a licensed toy. There's no way that would have flown if they gotten Universal licensing, Universal Studios licensing. They would never have allowed something like that at the time. Now is a different story, but at the time they wouldn't have done that. So it's unlicensed, and it's pretty cool. Alright, let's put that over here. Alright, so... well, speaking of unlicensed, let's get into a little bit more modern. This isn't a Jaws item per se, but this is a pretty cool great white shark that I just thought I'd throw into this program because it's a great white shark. This is from the 90s, and this is a big, kind of like an action figure great white shark, and his mouth opens and closes, and he comes with can you see him in there? He comes with a tuna he can bite into. His mouth he bites the tuna. Then there's little packets, like blood packets. So when he bites the tuna, it bleeds into, like you're supposed to play with it in a bathtub. And when you do, I'll show you the pictures on the back. When you do, it bleeds into the water. So it's kind of like a bathtub toy. And when he bites the tuna, it bleeds. And this is a cool toy. I mean, I would have loved to have had something like this as a kid. This is a realistic looking, kind of deluxe type shark toy. No fooling around with this one. I like this. And I think this is from the 90s, 1990s, I think. Might be more recent, might be early 2000s, I'm not sure. Okay, so we're getting into the modern day now. Well, before I get into these, here's a little Matchbox Jaws item. It's got a little shark, a little boat with a shark. Official Jaws item. It says Amity Police. That's pretty cool. Amity Police boat, kind of like when they had all the, like when Mayor Vaughn insisted the beaches stay open, and so they had all the boats out, and those two kids had the fake fin, and it caused the panic, and they had these boats like this. So that's a cool item. here is the Funko Reaction Super 7 Jaws Bruce. This is the bloody version with Quint in its mouth. Remember when I said they wouldn't have done a licensed shark eating a person in the 70s, but they would do it now. And that's what we have here. This is official Bruce shark from Jaws with Quint in his mouth. There's another version that has, instead of Quint, it has the scuba tank, and I don't have that one. So he's got official Jaws artwork. And these were the first Jaws action figures. As far as I know, these were the first official Jaws action figures ever made. And here they are. Here's Quint. And given the format, 3 3/4 inch, they do look like the actors. I think officially they're not licensed likenesses because of the format. You don't need a likeness, I think. I've read something to that effect. But they do look like the actors, given the format. Here's Hooper. Three 3/4 inch format. Here's Brody. Chief Martin Brody. So these are modern. They came out, I don't know, what was it, 5 years ago, approximately. I think Brody's my favorite of the bunch. He really looks good. And understand, if you buy these, their bubbles are notorious for coming off. All 3 of these bubbles are reattached. This figure line is notorious for the bubbles just falling off. And a lot of the Funko Reaction stuff, the Super 7 was kind of tied to, and Reaction was kind of tied to Funko, and now I think they're separate, and I think they're their own company now. But a few years ago, that was a problem with a lot of the Super 7 stuff. The bubbles would fall off. That's one reason I don't buy a lot of that stuff. Now, the modern Reaction, well, this is modern. I mean, the newer Reaction stuff is better. It doesn't have that problem. But the earlier figures like these, the bubbles fall off. So when you're buying these, understand with all these Jaws figures, there's 2 kinds of figures. Those that have separated bubbles and those that are going to have separated bubbles. Do not think yours are going to be the exception. They're probably already separated, and maybe the seller either doesn't know that or isn't telling you, or they'll separate during shipping, or they'll separate after you buy them, but they will separate. It's just a matter of time. If they haven't already separated, they will. So just know, because they're gotten expensive. People are charging a lot of money for those Reaction Jaws figures. Just understand what you're buying. You might buy sealed figures now, but they're not going to stay sealed. And that's not just me saying that. That's well known in the hobby now that that's what's going on with those figures. Okay. Here's the final item we're going to look at. Okay, here is the Todd McFarlane, Movie Maniacs, Jaws diorama set. You can see Bruce in there. And there is a Quint that goes in his mouth, just like the reaction one we just saw. Although I think the Quint from this diorama doesn't move. I don't think he's posable. I'm not sure. I've never had one out of the box to look at. But look at that orca. I mean, that is a great replica. You know, this is a serious replica of the orca. That's really nice. Unfortunately, it's in the sinking position, and the shark isn't a whole shark. The shark is just half a shark. So you can't theoretically play with it, you know, like a play set. I really wish, and when this came out, I was kind of disappointed with it for those very reasons, because I really wish that McFarlane Toys had made, this is bumping my mic. Here, let's look at it over here. I wish they'd made the orca whole, and made the shark whole, and made all three characters. So they could have had a base that was elevated and sunken, so you could take the orca and insert it into the base, would be in that sinking position, and maybe the shark could have come in half, and you could have stuck him in there to make this scene the way it is. But it would have still been, if you wanted to, you could have just the orca, you know, on its own, not sinking, and the shark whole and the three characters. That would have made this over the top. And I think a lot of people were hoping that Funko Reaction would, other Movie Maniacs toys, that Funko Reaction would have made an orca to go with those three figures. They made the three figures, they made the shark, but they didn't make an orca. McFarlane made the orca, but it's sinking, and they made the shark, but it's only half a shark, and they made one of the characters, Quint, but I don't think he's posable. I don't know if you can see him in there. You know, he's pretty hit. You can't see him in there. He's deep inside the box there, but he's there. So this has become pretty pricey. This Jaws set. It's become an expensive item. You know, and it's cool. You know, if you're a Jaws collector, you kind of need to have it. You're required to have it. But like I said, I'd trade this for that Lincoln International one, because I can get another one of these. It's just a matter of paying for it. The Lincoln one, I've only seen one for sale, and I didn't get it. Anyway, I'll get it someday. We'll put that away later. Okay, so I think that's it. Am I forgetting anything? There are other things I wanted to show you that I couldn't find. Like, I had that talking shark. You know how they used to have the Billy Bass trout or whatever that thing was called. They made a Jaws one. I had that, and I wanted to hang it up on the wall back here, but I couldn't find it. I don't know what happened to it. I looked everywhere. Otherwise, it would be on the wall behind me. Well, it's been 2 hours. Wow. Good grief. Time to wrap this up. We took it all the way to like the 90s into the 2000s. But there are new Jaws toys coming out this year. NECA, N-E-C-A, NECA, has announced a line of 8-inch Mego-style Jaws figures, and they've shown Brody and Quint, and they say they're going to make Hooper, but they haven't shown a prototype of him yet. And they look fantastic. They look like the actors. They look like Robert Shaw and Roy Scheider. So they're beautiful looking. If the finished product looks like the prototypes, it's going to be great. And that's something I think most Jaws fans who are also into toys have wanted really since childhood. Mego Jaws figures. They're not made by officially Mego, they're made by NECA, but they're Mego-style 8-inch figures, and they look great. And hopefully they'll get that Hooper out as well. And they're making Bruce. They're making the shark, and they have shown a pre-production picture of the sculpt, and it's 30 inches long. It's gigantic. They've shown a picture of one of their crew holding it up, but it's not finished. It's just they got the body sculpt done, but it doesn't have the fins or anything. From what I heard in an interview with one of the executives at NECA, the Bruce is going to cost about $200. Not cheap, but it's big. It's going to have some kind of an outer skin. I don't know if it's going to be like rubbery or what, and an articulated inner skeleton, and some kind of a base, like to display it on. So it's going to be a very deluxe, impressive kind of a piece, I hope. And the sculpt looks like Bruce. It has the jowls and it has the kind of boxy, pointy head, and it looks like it should. It's got the wrinkles in the right place, because Jaws collectors are very picky about that kind of stuff. It's kind of like Michael Myers collectors that have a wall full of white masks, and you might look at it and say it's the same mask, but not to them. They can tell you the difference, every single one. So these are from the first Halloween. This is from this scene, and this is from this scene. This actor was wearing it in this part, and this actor was wearing it in that part. And this is from Halloween 2, and this is from the scene where a different actor played him in this scene. And, oh my gosh. And then all the sequels. Okay, you get it. That's the way Jaws collectors are with Bruce. They can tell you there was 3 Bruce mechanical sharks from the first film. Or was there 4? There's 3. But they can tell you not only whether they're the 3 different robot sharks, but then as the production went on and the sharks got damaged and they got repaired, their appearance changed. So the collector can tell you this is Bruce number 3 from this point in production. This is Bruce number 2 from later in production. So if you're going to make Bruce stuff in the modern day, you got to take all that into account, because the collectors are picky. And there are independent Bruce shark model makers that make these very, very realistic, highly detailed Bruce sharks, big, different sizes, like, this all the way to that. They're made of resin, and they're very, very detailed. They're unlicensed. There's one in Missouri, and there's one in England. They're the 2 best known ones. And they're pricey, not unreasonable for what they are, but they're pricey. I have no place to put something like that. I mean, it'll be, at least this NECA one, I'm assuming, will be in some kind of a box, like this McFarlane toy. Whereas these independent ones, I don't think they come in any kind of a box with artwork. They just ship them to you in a plain brown box with packing. But they're so huge, where would you put it? I mean, you really would have to have like an entertainment room with a Jaws theme, and make that one of those sharks the centerpiece of the room, and kind of build your room around it. I don't have anything like that, so I'm not spending hundreds or $1,000 or more dollars on a gigantic, fragile resin shark. I got no place to put it. But those replica sharks are very specific about what Bruce shark it is. Is it Bruce number 1, number 2, number 3? Is it from this scene or that scene? Or the first movie, second, third, fourth? So if you're interested in a highly detailed, independent, unlicensed Bruce resin model shark, resin statue, Google those. You'll find them. But I'm more interested in this NECA thing because it's a toy. I collect toys. And I want a toy Bruce. Something that if it fell off a table wouldn't break necessarily. That hopefully, I don't know with this pandemic how that affects things, but hopefully the Jaws stuff will come out this year. It was supposed to come out this fall. We'll see. But that's something to look forward to. A trio of Jaws Mego-style figures of Brody, Quint, Hooper, and a 2-scale Bruce shark to go with them. Well, I think that's it. Time to wrap this up. If you're watching this 4th of July weekend, have a safe and happy 4th of July. Don't blow your fingers off. Don't upset your neighbors by shooting off fireworks all weekend long. Be considerate of your neighbors. Stay safe. The pandemic is still going on, so keep that in mind. And I will see you again probably before the fall. Probably have a couple of special episodes over the summer. Definitely we'll see each other when it gets close to Halloween. And I hope to have another giveaway like I did last year. That went over very well, so hopefully I can do that again. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to do a few more music videos if I can. But, I'm going back to work in the office, so my schedules won't be as flexible. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be a culture shock after all these months working from home. This has been a weird time. I'm sure a lot of people are stressed out and having kind of strange, conflicted emotions. Besides the pandemic, we've had all the protests, all the social upheaval. It's kind of a dark, scary time. I think those of us who are part of the horror community maybe are a little better equipped to deal with times like these because we kind of live there anyway. We've kind of lived in that dark space all our lives. We're kind of used to it. We kind of know how to deal with the monsters. But it's still hard, even for us hard-nosed horror people. It's still hard. It's been a stressful time. And even though I've been working from home, it's not a vacation. It's not a vacation. At least not for me. Maybe for some people. Not for me. It's work. And it's just very strange. But I'm glad I was able to be home for Stinker in his final weeks and spend so much time with him. I was with him all the time, all the way to the end. So I'm glad the timing worked out that way, that I was able to be there for him. And I've been able to spend a lot of time with my new kitten, Billy, and kind of break him in, and get him used to the house, used to me. And I've been able to do a few things, like I built that Adar bottle scene, Jaws. I did that. And I've been, doing some music and stuff. A little this, little that, but I've not really been in the right headspace to take advantage of the flexibility of the schedule. It's like, I'm working from home. I've got this flexibility. I can do things I wouldn't normally be able to do if I was sitting in an office all the time. But I'm just not having, I think a lot of people have been this way, really not been in the right headspace to do that. It just doesn't, despite some of the memes that were going on when this pandemic started, like, this is the time to, like, write that book or write that screenplay or learn that new language or do that thing you always want to do. Yeah, get out of here with that. Forget that. This has been a scary, depressing time. It's not a time to be a go-getter and do all this great stuff. It's a time to wonder what in the heck's going to happen tomorrow. And then being isolated, not being able to see your friends, if you're lucky enough to have any friends, not being able to see them, have any human contact, just over Zoom. I got Zoom coming out my ears. Zoom for work, and also with friends too. Done a little Zooming with them. I've had enough Zoom. Makes me think of the childhood TV show I used to watch, Zoom, 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 in the 70s. It was a show called Zoom. It was a kiddie show. I think of that when I think of Zoom. A more pleasant time, which is what all this is about, is the Jaws stuff. Even Jaws is a dark, scary movie, but it takes you back to a nice period of history, the 1970s, which is sort of a golden, utopian, nostalgic time for people who grew up then. Well, don't need to wax on about the 70s, but I'm a 70s kid. I like the 70s. I like the 1970s a lot. And it doesn't get much more 70s than Jaws. You could argue Star Wars, $6 Million Man, whatever, but Jaws, that is quintessential 70s. I'm happy to have brought this to you in this special show. Thank you for sitting through this whole thing, and I hope you'll watch when I have something new to offer, whether it's another Basement of Horror episode or something musical or some other topic. Stay tuned. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, why have you not subscribed? Subscribe to this channel. You'll have to scratch the chalkboard. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell, all that jazz. And like the video. All right. That's it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Have a happy 4th. And remember, he who dies with the most toys is dead.